Hello, friends, and welcome back to Scaling Stories. Today, I've got some more highly upvoted posts from Best of Redditor updates for y'all. Like always, I'll be reading you the posts and giving you my opinions, and I'll also be working on building up my Minecraft world at the same time, so I hope you enjoy. Also, I'm currently only in Spotify's creator program, so watching on there would help me out a ton. Thank you so much for your support. Today's story comes from the Relationships subreddit. It was posted by State of Disbelief on May 26, 2015, and was titled, My 35 male, wife 31 female, had my sister-in-law 33 female, deported. I had to come on here and get some kind of sideline perspective because, currently, no one else in the family knows that the reason my sister-in-law is deported is because of my wife. Not sure if I should out her either in my current state of mind. Sorry if this is long/disorganized. My mind is currently in chaos. Background: we have been together for 8 years, no kids. Basically, all of this began when my brother and sister-in-law moved back to our home country after he had been living in my sister-in-law's country. Prior to that, my wife, Emma, didn't have an issue with my sister-in-law. My wife and sister-in-law are both from the States, but my wife has been living with me in my home country since we got married. My brother and sister-in-law are what some people might call free-spirited. My sister-in-law is from Portland, something my wife rolls her eyes at, and is very hipster. They both smoke regularly, something I don't have an issue with but don't feel like getting involved with either. My wife has no issues with drugs/drug use, but she can't stand how much my brother and sister-in-law talk about pot whenever we see them. 6 months ago, my wife decided to finish her master's degree and was offered an opportunity to do a semester abroad. Coinciding with that time, my brother and sister-in-law moved back here permanently. However, from what I understand, my sister-in-law is technically still on a tourist visa, which has expired by now, since they came in February, and I'm not really sure what was going on with the whole paperwork process. They seem to be bad at planning. My sister-in-law has mentioned before that she wants to have a kid with my brother because she would not only get paid maternity leave here, but it would cement her staying. She told my wife this over Facebook messages as well. When my wife left to do her semester abroad, and my brother and sister-in-law moved in, we hung out a lot more. At first, my wife was cool with it and would say hi, etc. But things changed when my brother and sister-in-law invited me on a road trip to Sweden, something that my wife has always wanted to do with me, but we never got around to. After that, she would become short in her answers whenever I said I was hanging out with them. She began to make subtle comments about my sister-in-law, and the more I saw them, the more vicious the comments got. As a result, I didn't go out with my brother so much when I knew my sister-in-law would be there. I love my brother, but honestly, he takes a lot of energy to be around, so it's not something I really minded too much. However, things came to a head when both my sister-in-law and my wife entered the same photo competition. My wife entered first, and then my sister-in-law saw her post and entered 2 days later. Then she and my sister-in-law engaged in a pretty childish, subtle Facebook statuses about each other, always masked as someone or this person. My wife was pissed, and I took the opportunity to ask her what was going on between her and my sister-in-law. She basically told me that she resented how my sister-in-law got to see me all the time now and how she feels inadequate compared to her because my sister-in-law does all the cooking, although it's mostly those minimalist dishes people make for Instagram and not very appetizing for me. And I'm the one who cooks in our marriage. My sister-in-law is also Asian, and I made the mistake of telling my wife that I had a thing for Asian girls back when I was 20 and everything Japanese was all trendy. She was also upset that I had gone to my brother and sister-in-law's wedding without her while she had been abroad during her bachelor's degree. She also is afraid that I'm going to start smoking again because of them. I told her it was not something I was interested in because pot mostly makes me paranoid and depressed. She also brought up that she hates how I will talk crap about my brother and sister-in-law, mostly about their need to constantly talk about smoking and some of their very out there ideas about things, but act perfectly fine to their faces. She says she feels like I'm placating her by saying my sister-in-law is annoying, but I still go see her. She said it makes her feel like I will lie to fit the situation, and that bothers her. Well, I hadn't seen my brother or sister-in-law for a few weeks now, and my wife and I were back to normal. She came home, and we were having a good time seeing all our other friends. She didn't even bat an eyelash when I said some of the guys had invited me out for a guys' night. All was good. Then, last week, my brother called and asked me if I wanted to hang out. He sounded pretty high, and I told him no. Emma casually asked what was up, and I told her. She got a bit quiet, then shrugged and went back to doing whatever. About 10 minutes afterward, she said she was going to take the dog for a walk and run to the store to get some vegetables for dinner. This is basically what went down. She went outside, called the police anonymously, and said that she was a concerned neighbor and could smell marijuana coming from my brother's flat. The police came. My brother and sister-in-law were arrested and fined. However, when they went to pull up my sister-in-law's profile to record the incident, they discovered her expired tourist visa. She had to be transferred to a sort of holding facility for people who are in the queue for being deported. Now there's a whole crapstorm happening. My brother is beyond upset, and the family is shocked. This isn't really something that can be worked around, as 1, marijuana is illegal in this country, and 2, she was on an expired visa, and they didn't file the correct paperwork for her to live here legally. So, if she is deported, she may face a 5 to 10-year ban. This means either the end of their marriage, or my brother will need to figure out how to move to the US with her. The thing is, no one knows it was my wife except me, and she doesn't even sound the least bit remorseful. We had a huge row about it, and she stood by her decision, saying that if my sister-in-law was stupid enough to do illegal drugs as well as not have her papers in order, then it was on her. If I'm being honest, I don't care so much about my sister-in-law being deported, but I care that my wife felt so threatened by her that she went to this length. She's the type to make subtle remarks and be frosty, but she has never done anything close to this before. So now I'm in a real bind. I really don't know what to do. I definitely cannot tell the family, and I don't really feel the obligation to anyway. I'm not close with my mom because she left me as a kid, and I don't talk to any of my relatives, really, except my dad and brother. But I cannot just let this slide. I need to impress upon her that she has potentially ruined a marriage, all in an effort to remove someone she finds annoying from our lives. Someone we don't even have to see every day. What advice can you guys give me? There's no one else I can even talk to about this. ScalingStories Corner. That is absolutely brutal and savage of OP's wife. For starters, she lied about what she was doing because she obviously knew OP would fight back against the idea about calling the police on his brother and sister-in-law. Because obviously, that's an overreaction and it's a malicious thing to do just because OP happens to spend more time with them than her sometimes. So yeah, lying is a no-no. Next, it seems really weird to me the things that OP's wife is mad at him about. So she's mad at him for attending his brother and sister-in-law's wedding when she was abroad, but it seems like she couldn't attend it anyway because of school. So what did she expect OP to do in this situation? Like, was she expecting him to just skip his brother and sister-in-law's wedding just because she couldn't attend? That screams main character syndrome hella hard to me. And her being spiteful because the sister-in-law does all the cooking in her relationship, but OP does the cooking in theirs is just crazy. Like, this lady is absolutely nuts. And her logic that because OP said sometimes he finds his brother and sister-in-law annoying because they smoke pot and talk about whatever, but he still goes to see them means that he's lying to her is completely insane as well. Just because you find someone annoying sometimes doesn't mean you go completely scorched earth, no contact on them. Sometimes if they're friends or family, you accept the fact that they are who they are and you tolerate the occasional annoyingness because you value the relationship you have with them. I have no emotional ties to OP's wife, whereas he has 8 years of history with her. But I think I would want to divorce someone this malicious, this spiteful, and this evil. At least have the balls to say you're related to the individual in question when you're calling the police instead of hiding under the guise of a concerned neighbor. Like, the cowardliness on top of her actions just ticks me off. Like, what happened to being mad at OP because she thought he was lying to her, but somehow her lying is perfectly acceptable? Like, I guess so in her world. Now here are some of the top/relevant comments from the original post. Commenter 1 says, "She completely violated your trust. She knew what she was going to do, but she lied to you about going to the store instead because she knew you'd try to stop her. That means she knew what she was doing was wrong. She also got your brother arrested. At the very least, she needs to come clean with your family, sister-in-law included, and apologize. Let her face the consequences for her actions. Maybe she'll learn something." OP says, "Yeah, I feel at fault for giving her the information about this. I shouldn't have said anything, but I also never thought it would go to this level either. And I agree, she needs to apologize to at least my brother and sister-in-law." Commenter 2 says, "Your wife took their stupid high school rivalry thing way too far." There are plenty of people that I can't stand in this world, but I would never go as far as to call the police on them, short of an actual crime/safety issue. This is a big deal, and while I don't know what you should do about it, personally, I would divorce over this. OP says, I don't know about divorce right now, but I think therapy together needs to be a must. If this is who she really is, I don't know. It's like you said, this was taking a rivalry way too far. Commenter 3 says, how do you forgive someone who ruins your own brother's marriage for something this petty and stupid? If anyone did that to my sister, I would never speak to them again. Commenter 4 says, how did you find out about her role in getting your sister-in-law deported? Did she tell you she made the call? OP says, well, when I got the call from my mom that my brother was in jail and my sister-in-law was getting deported, I told her. And she said, yeah, I know. I called the cops. Commenter 5 says, so, you are basically going to ignore what she did to your brother? He has a drug arrest now, and for most countries, that limits the types of jobs you can take and eventual promotions at jobs he does qualify for. He can no longer travel to a host of countries, including his wife's home country, the US. You said he took you on a trip to Sweden. Sounds like a guy who enjoys seeing the world to me. Your wife ruined that for him. His spouse can no longer live with him in his own country. He can't go to hers, but you are okay with the deportation thing? I could not live with my husband knowing he did that to my sister. Why are you so okay on behalf of your brother? Update 1 day later. So, there's a lot to catch up on here. First, my sister-in-law is on a flight out tomorrow. There is nothing that can be done at the moment to keep her here. She now has a stamp on her passport that says expelled and a 10-year ban from the entire Schengen area. The immigration officer my brother spoke to said that it is possible for the ban to be reduced, but that is the current official time given. The American embassy was also notified about this. My brother is a wreck. He was able to briefly visit my sister-in-law in the holding facility, and she gets to call him twice a day, but that's it. They don't know when it will be possible to see each other again or where. If he is unable to go to the US because of his arrest, they may agree to meet in a mutual country. My sister-in-law has family in the Philippines, so that may be an option for them. Many of you told me to tell him what my wife had done, but honestly, in his current state of mind, I just can't do it. It would be the actual tipping point for him. I know that this probably means I will have to either never tell him or accept that when I do, it will completely destroy our relationship. Secondly, I did tell one family member. My mother came to visit to discuss my sister-in-law's deportation, and I ended up telling her what Emma did. She was furious, and she insisted that both of us talk to my wife. Well, my wife and I had already agreed to have a long talk today about the matter and what this meant for us. I felt a little more grounded having my mother there. And then things just took a freak turn. My wife sat down and seemed really calm. She let my mom say what she wanted and just sort of sat there, nodding and had her hands folded. When my mom was done talking, my wife pulled out her phone and handed it to my mom. She showed her messages from my sister-in-law on Facebook, telling my wife how she planned to have a baby in order to stay and get paid maternity leave. My mom is extremely sensitive to this sort of thing because her own mother used her as a pawn, so to speak, many times when she was a child, mostly to get money from the state. So, my mother went from being extremely angry at my wife to actually siding with her. She said it was better this way because my sister-in-law's motives for having a baby were misguided and that she couldn't believe my brother was going to go along with it. So, with my mom on her side, my wife began to lay out my sister-in-law's shortcomings and how she was creating a toxic environment that would drag us down and any potential child they would have had. She also said that it was unfair how she had to go through the process of paperwork before coming here, and my sister-in-law was resting on her laurels and scheming to cheat the system, something that really pissed my mom off toward my sister-in-law. Valid points, all of them. However, I wasn't going to let it slide that she had obviously had ulterior motives, such as being jealous of my sister-in-law. I asked her if she would have done any of this if my sister-in-law and brother weren't spending so much time with me. If my sister-in-law wasn't cooking dinners for me, taking photos, or entering the same competition as her. She admitted that all these things definitely contributed, but only served to underline the disdain she already had. I told her that, no matter how you cut it, she had effectively ended their marriage. My mom decided to jump in and say that my sister-in-law and brother were at fault because they did not get their situation in order. My wife seconded that and said that if my sister-in-law had taken the time to file papers instead of planning trips with me or being busy playing housewife to someone else's husband, she wouldn't be in that situation. To quote, maybe she should have been taking care of herself and her own instead of trying to play housewife to someone else's husband. Well, I can take care of my family just fine, and if she had any doubts about that, now she's in the clear. I will admit, the point about her being afraid that I was going to be implicated along with my sister-in-law and brother when it comes to pot, I understand. That is a valid fear to have. They smoke almost every day. My brother almost always has something on him. My sister-in-law should have done her paperwork. She should have made sure her visa didn't expire. I will not argue that. She probably should not have said she was going to have a baby specifically to stay here. But I know that these are solid excuses that are being used in conjunction with something else. I know that if my sister-in-law was some fat, ugly slob, my wife would roll her eyes and let them be. If my sister-in-law was not Asian, if she couldn't cook, if she didn't take pictures of us together for her Instagram, my wife would just chalk her up as another annoying person who smokes too much for her taste but was ultimately harmless. And I know that if I had just gone to Sweden with my brother, my wife wouldn't care. But because I went with the woman who was playing housewife to me, it was a serious offense in her head. I waited until my mom left to tell her all of this. She didn't deny it. I also told her that this whole situation had let me see a side of her that honestly scared me. I told her I wanted to begin couples therapy together, or there was no hope of this continuing. She agreed, and we both began to research therapists in our area. She apologized for not talking to me about calling before doing so, but she has not apologized for my sister-in-law being deported. She also said that if I wanted to tell my brother and sister-in-law that it was her, I could go ahead and do that. But I'm not going to. 1, they are distraught enough. And 2, it seems like her coming to claim victory one last time over my sister-in-law to her face. So, that's what's going on. I'm hoping to post an update on our progress when we begin couples therapy. The issue for me right now is rebuilding the broken trust. Also, as far as things with the family go, well, my mom is on her side. And, should my mom decide to tell other people in the family, she will definitely make my sister-in-law the bad guy in the story. Aside from my brother, I think most of the family would be on Emma's side. Scaling Stories Corner. Yo, just ew at OP's lack of character. Like, yes, OP's brother and sister-in-law were smoking weed in a place where it was illegal, and the sister-in-law did not get her papers, but they got in trouble specifically because OP's wife ratted them out. That was legit people part of your family, and OP's wife ratted them out because the sister-in-law was getting on her nerves. Because according to OP's words, the sister-in-law was not fat, not ugly, not a slob, and she also happened to be Asian and did house chores. Like, OP's wife is actually insane, and he is a spineless simp for staying with such a malicious woman. It's so disgusting what she did to OP's brother and sister-in-law's future. Like, the actual reasoning behind it is truly evil. And also, his mother is also stupid for overlooking that just because of the baby thing. Like, I understand if you think what the sister-in-law's reasonings for having a baby were bad, but to excuse the evil in front of you because of that? Like, nah, you're stupid, like so stupid. And why does OP even care about what his mom's opinion is? Like, you said this lady abandoned you when you were a child. Like, who cares what she thinks? Now, here are some of the top/relevant comments from the original post. Commenter 1 says, I am concerned that your wife has this secret in her back pocket that could end your relationship with your brother at any time. OP says, I agree. I know I have to tell my brother in order to stop that from hanging over my head. I just feel that right now is the absolute worst time. What if he did snap and do something completely crazy, like assault her? He would end up in prison and with no way of even trying to maintain a long-distance relationship with my sister-in-law. Commenter 2 says, if you don't tell him now, you're going to ruin your relationship with him. Letting him lean on you and your wife for support while your wife is the one that stabbed him is wrong. I would rather he be angry than hurt and feel betrayed by your wife and you later on. I would rather just rip off the band-aid. In addition, your wife deserves everything she is going to get. Don't protect that BTCH. Commenter 3 says, this is some Gone Girl level crap. Second update 1 day later. This is the last post I will write on this issue for several reasons. The first would be that many of the responses made me feel sick to my stomach. Advice is one thing, But there is no reason for anyone to say that they hope someone dies, that they hope my wife gets a horrible disease, or to call her every awful name in the book. That is not advice and is not welcome. I was more willing to listen to people who commented saying perhaps she had BPD or some other type of psychological disorder, because that, at least, I could give them credit for. There's absolutely no reason to comment saying, your wife is a stupid CNT and I hope she dies, or message me privately with that. At the end of the day, she is my wife. Secondly, a lot was assumed about my brother, and that is probably my fault. I love my brother, but he is 34 years old and still smokes pot every day and acts pretty much the same as he did at 18. He needs to grow up. Him being a father would not have been a smart choice. He doesn't even have his own crap together. He and my sister-in-law are kind people. Yes, they are family. But my brother hasn't been here for me. My brother hasn't stood by my side in every event I needed him. He left home when he was 18 and barely wrote to me on Facebook for the next 6 years. My wife, on the other hand, has stuck by me for 8 years. She has been there for me when I needed her. She has been my rock, and she has had my back. I'm not going to abandon her just because my brother is a blood relation. I'm going to go to therapy with her, and we will see what happens. She may have been cold and calculating, but she is not without cause. And that's it. Short update and to the point. I couldn't stomach any more of the hate I was getting. Thanks to those who gave genuine advice. Scaling Stories Corner. Nah, I hate that OP let his wife get away with that crap. This man does not love his brother. This man is blinded by whatever leash his wife has him on. Who cares if your brother doesn't have his crap together? That's his life. If he's going to waste his life away smoking pot, then whatever. He left his home when he was 18 and didn't write to you for blah 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 years and wasn't at every life event. Like, okay, who cares? He was with you later. He spent time with you later. You guys were interacting as brothers later in life and all was going well. Your wife was jealous that he and your sister-in-law were spending more time with you than her and decided that the best course of action was to nuke their lives into oblivion by deporting the sister-in-law and getting a drug charge tacked onto your brother. I don't have OP's lived experiences of 8 years, but I would drop someone like hot garbage if I found out they were capable of such damage for such petty reasons. That is just unbelievably inhumane and cruel to the core. Now here are some of the top/relevant comments from the update post. Commenter 1 says, way to judge the F out of your brother. He may be an immature pothead, but at least he's not a malicious and vindictive BTCH. Best of luck to you and yours in the future. You're going to need it. Commenter 2 says, but he is 34 years old and still smokes pot every day and acts pretty much the same as he did at 18. He needs to grow up. Him being a father would not have been a smart choice. He doesn't even have his own crap together. And because of this, you're willing to justify your wife tearing his family apart out of spite. I'm sorry, your wife is a terrible person, and I hope you never find her turning her spite on you. Commenter 3 says, you wouldn't be abandoning her for what she did to your brother. You'd be abandoning her because of what her actions say about her character. I hope this is the last time she pushes the go nuclear button, but I doubt it. Be ready for scorched earth policies regarding you, your employers, your kids' teachers. She's a frightening person because it was a premeditated action, and she doesn't see anything wrong with it. Okay friends, so that concludes today's video. Leave a like and comment down below to let me know what you thought of it, and I'll see you again tomorrow. Take care.